Hello and welcome to the Clock and Talk, an Arsenal podcast, and we're covering, for fuck's sake.
Good job me and Schwinn are a lot more prepared than you, because if we came on and went, oh yeah, we didn't watch the game either, we was on the piss, it'd be a pretty shit podcast.
Well, Mesut Ozil is the best number 10 in the Premier League.
Yeah, that all looks good on paper, but there's never been a football match played on paper, so it's not really worth much.
I'm going to make a bold prediction that Jack Wilshere will sign for West Ham United.
It's time to start watching football with your eyes. I think people listen to what the commentator's saying and have that as their own opinion, but if you watch what's going on, you'll see things a lot clearer.
Schwinn, who do you think is going to win the Golden Boot?
I think Alexis Sanchez might do a number on that this year.
Okay. Tony talks about a clock being right twice a day. Tez is right every day. Try it from 5, lads. Fucking beauty. Hello and welcome to the Clock and Talk. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. You can follow us at @clockand_talk on Twitter. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, and just about everywhere else. I can't think where else, but anyway, podcast apps, you name it. We're everywhere. Clock and Talk. Just fucking save it wherever. Okay, each and every week. Well, it's not each and every week. Every show, this man is here. Tony, how are you, mate?
No, I'm just Mr. Reliable. Always there. Always a solid performer. But yeah, I'm good. Spoiler, glad to get the first away win in what seems like forever. So yeah, good times at the moment.
Happy days. And you wouldn't believe it. Take our lotto ticket because this man has decided to join us for a podcast, and mate, I'm fucking shocked. But anyway, here he is. Schwinn, how are you, buddy?
Not too bad. Why are you shocked? I was the one who sort of set this up, didn't I?
You did actually.
Yeah. So no need for shock. But yeah, I'm doing well. Currently in India. It's been a great week. Of course, it's been a great weekend. Not just because we grabbed 3 points, which of course we'd speak about, but Game of Thrones is back. And I know you boys don't give a shit about it, but I've heard you guys talk about. I've heard you guys talk about horse racing on here, so let me have my moment, will you?
Go on. What's going on in Game of Thrones then?
That's not how this question works at all. I'm not going to get into specifics, but it's just great to be back in a realm that a lot of viewers have and fans have missed, and it's the last season, so fingers crossed for.
Does that mean you're going to finally shut up about it?
No, it just means that I'm going to make you watch it at some point. It didn't work this time when I was around, but soon after, I think that's going to change.
Fucking Game of Thrones. I haven't seen it. I got no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, I'm sure those fans, because there is fans from them, they are glued to the TV, so probably not even listen to us on a podcast. So, firstly, I apologise for the background noise because I do have a little bit of rain. Yes, it does rain in Australia. So, Tony, line-up, mate. Obviously, going into the Watford game yesterday or this morning for me, me and you spoke about this line-up and we were type of Aubameyang, Lacazette, who was going to play. But I forgot about Mafropanos as well. I was like, oh shit, I was shocked to see him make an appearance. Your thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, well, we did highlight the centre-back issue that because of Socrates being out, and I assume he would want to play a back five against Napoli, that it would cause issues. We did speak about that. I think we all just forgot that Mavropanos existed. Well, we thought Emery forgot Mavropanos existed. He's obviously rested players. I mean, playing Mustafi as a right back when Maitland-Niles is there, I feel was just to preserve Maitland-Niles for midweek or for Thursday, and probably the same with Kolasinac. I think he would usually play, but we obviously know he's not the fittest, and I assume we'll see him on Thursday. But the team wasn't too bad. I think we both thought it would be Lacazette rather than Aubameyang, because I think I would rather have Aubameyang in Napoli to stretch the pitch. But it seems like, especially with Lacazette not playing any part, that he's going to be your man starting on Thursday. So there's a couple of surprises. I wouldn't say they were positive or negative, just things I didn't really expect.
Yeah, we'll go through that Napoli game a bit later because I don't know about that one. Schwinn, your thoughts on the lineup, buddy?
I think it was a mixture of what Tony spoke about in terms of resting a few players for a crucial upcoming tie, and adapting what's available with this new setup. We've seen the back three for the last few weeks, I'd say, and we switched, of course, at the beginning of yesterday's game, switching to a 4-4-1-1 almost. And I think in that regard, you had to sort of, put some round pegs in square holes, particularly Mustafi at right back, who I thought had a very good game. I think he cleared everything that came his way. And against a physical team like Watford, you need that sort of aerial presence where, Koscielny struggled. Dinos struggled to an extent. So I thought Mustafi had a decent game. But again, away from home, we haven't won since Huddersfield, I think, away from home in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And that talks about our form. Everyone knows about that. So it makes sense that we switched to a back four, maybe tried something new. I think maybe where things changed a bit was the sending off, because suddenly that game became a Mesut Ozil game. We had a lot more space to play with, and to Watford's credit, they played very well, but we had no one who was sitting in between the lines. We had a few ball progressors in the team, but no one occupying positions through which these players could have played. And that's why Emery made the sub at halftime. But coming into the game, I was a bit apprehensive, but the more I thought about it as kickoff approached, I understood the train of thought involved.
Look, we talk about the first type of 15 minutes. We have been Tony in previous games, so look, we'll go around that as well. Your first 15 minutes, and obviously I'll let Schwinn talk about, and obviously you'll have a talk about the Troy Deeney red card, but the Aubameyang goal up to about there, mate. How do you think we started up until the first goal?
I thought it was a little bit slow. I thought they had the upper hand, even though I'm not sure if they actually had any shots, or they didn't have any shots on target, but they had the ball pinballing around our area a couple of times. And then one break, we were nicking the ball back quite well, but not really doing much with it. And then we had the break. I mean, Ramsey's cross was awful. But Aubameyang will never get enough credit for that goal, because if he would have not closed him down, no one would ever said anything. It's one of the things, he wouldn't have been wrong to not close him down, but he goes and does it, and it will always go down as a keeper mistake or just a sloppy error. But for me, he's done really well. I mean, he covers the ground so quickly, and just well done for doing it, really. There's not too much you can say about it when the ball's deflected off him from a yard out. But fair play to him for going and committing to it, and he does do that very well.
He does it a lot of games, and people obviously go, oh, shit, do I like my striker doing that and putting the pressure on the keeper? I like it because, like we seen yesterday, it paid off, and that was the one payoff that we actually needed, because had that game been a draw, it'd be a different conversation. So. Yeah,
it completely changes things, and obviously being 1-0 up's huge difference to being 0-0. I mean, I think you have to pick your moments to do it. I think if the keeper's got 5 seconds and he's got time to take a touch and get his head up, then you just wasted energy chasing him down. But then he knew that if the keeper had only had one touch and then second touch, he had to clear it. And if that first touch was a little bit heavy or a little bit light, then he would have been on him. And so that it's just decisions in that split second to go and do it. And I don't know if any of you have seen it. I think some of the listeners will. That there's a guy on TalkSport, Dean Saunders, who is a complete prick, that used to play for Liverpool. He was saying that that's arguably his goal of the season because it's come from absolutely nothing. Like, it's not on. Obviously, it's not goal of the season, but you can kind of see where he's coming from in a sense, saying that you show a still of that moment when the right back's got the ball and there's no chance there. And if you said, a goal 3 seconds later, that's individual brilliance. And obviously it's not individual brilliance in the way that we look at it, but he has made a goal out of absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. And what I like about the Aubameyang situation, he come out after the game, I was reading today, and he said, look, I think Salah and who else is up top there? They're one goal.
Aguero and Salah are on 19. He's on 18.
Yeah, and he come out and he's pretty confident that he's gonna take the golden boot. So I like that about the strike. About our striker. He's confident. He's dedicated, and he's like, yeah, I'll get this golden boot. So I like that. Schwinn, we got to talk about the red card. Red card for you?
It's a very difficult one because I missed it live. That particular instant, I was looking elsewhere just for a moment, and it just so happened that I hear the whistle and I see Craig Pawson taking a red card out of his back pocket. What I will say, I think the key factor in this situation, irrespective of whether we can agree on the severity of it or not, is that there's intent. I think there's a clear attempt from Deeney to, whether you want to call it shove, whether you want to call it a hit, I'll leave that up to you guys. But I think there's a clear attempt to make contact, and in a very unnatural way. He's not trying to protect himself or the ball. He's actually trying to make an offensive action towards Torreira in that case. And because of the height disparity, one could argue that it hit him in the head where it wasn't intended to, but there's intent to hit. And for me, that warrants action. Is a red too harsh? I think yes. I don't think it was a red card per se, but I think there's arguments on both sides. I feel it's a very difficult one. In terms of the replays, I don't think it was a red card, but from people who saw it live, who I was with, they said, yeah, it probably was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I'm a little bit like you, Schwinn. I thought it was, it was a little bit harsh for a red card. I'd be very pissed off if that was an Arsenal player and they got a red card for something similar. So I've got to be, try and be unbiased a little bit in that. But a lot of people will say, definitely a red because he did elbow him in the cheek and whatnot. Tony, your thoughts on it?
I'm torn as well. For me, it's one of them 50-50. It can go either way, and I don't think there's too many complaints either way. For me, it comes down to it didn't need to happen. He's purposely done it, as whether you call it intent or that's a decision he's made. It's not like he was running and his arm was trailing as a part of his running motion. He's made a conscious decision to do that. So in that case, if you do get sent off, I don't think you can have too many arguments. As I said, I don't think it was that severe, and I think if it had been a yellow, I don't think there would have been a massive amount of complaints. As we was coming out of the ground, a couple of Watford fans were saying while they can't argue with the red, would say Aubameyang had got sent off for the same thing, and I think the answer probably is no. I think where Deeney said last year against Arsenal, you hit the first man you come up against and see who fancies it from there. Stuff like that does play in referees' minds. Whether it should or not, you can argue all day long, but it does. So when he said something like that, and then the first one he's made is not part of a tackle, he's consciously decided to hit someone, I don't think that does you any favours. Also, from the linesman's point of view, which is the linesman that sent him off, I don't know if either of you have seen that angle. It looks like he clearly swung an elbow in his face. So again, while he didn't, from the linesman's angle, that's what it looks like, and if that's what the linesman's seen or thinks he's seen, he has to go. But I think it's one of them. Either way, you can argue, and I don't think you have too many arguments against it.
Yeah, just in you're talking about, and I get totally what you're talking about with the, his comments to the last game and whatnot, that he's going to do this, not do this, but there's always been a little bit of bad blood with Deeney and Arsenal. But look, in his defence, I don't think he's had a red card since 2017. So
he got sent off like 2 games in a row last season, I think it was.
Oh, was it? Okay.
He got a 3-game ban and came back and then just got sent off again and got 4-game ban.
That just fucking that just fucked what I was just about to say up. So I was going to say I didn't think he was that much of a dirty player, but at the end of the day, I don't care. It was great that for Arsenal that he got sent off, but I didn't think he was that much of a dirty player, because I was reading today, I think it was 2017 I was talking about, but anyway, if you tell me it was last year, I'll run with that.
Well, it was last season, so it could have been 2017.
Oh, okay. Right.
I don't think it was, but if I found it, if you said it definitely was, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Now, obviously, Watford dropped down to 10 men, Tony, and I'm thinking...
Did they, though?
Well, that's what I was just about to get to. I thought they covered it very well, and we didn't look. There was lots of shots on target. I could go through all the different stats and stuff, but from about there to the halfway to half time, your thoughts?
It was strange because instinctively we done exactly what you should do against 10 men. Mkhitaryan and Iwobi went and stood literally on the touchline. Aubameyang occupied the space in the middle, so their defence was really stretched, and then Ramsey was finding the gaps in between, which is perfect. That is literally textbook how you should play against 10 men. The issue was we kept isolating our wingers, which is what you want, but then instead of giving them the ball to them one-on-one, we were moving the ball across so slowly that by the time it got there, they'd all shuffled over as well. So you'd gone from having a one-on-one to just a normal defence. And we was doing it time and time again. It was so frustrating because the setup was perfect, but the execution was horrendous. And I don't really know who to blame. You can blame them all. It's collective, because it wasn't like just one player was switching it slowly or they were running into each other's spaces. There was a lot wrong, but the setup, which they instinctively done, was perfect. I mean, I think they probably had the better chances from the sending off till half time. Leno's made a great save from the free kick. They've hit the post. I don't think we really created anything. Aubameyang had one blocked from, I think it was a Iwobi cutback, and that was about it. I think for us, I don't know if I'd say they looked dangerous, but they certainly didn't look like they had 10 men.
Schwinn, you obviously just said then, did they though? Mate, just go through your take on it, because I don't know if I've seen a team who's dropped the 10 men continue attacking. Usually they almost, clean up and park a bus and just try and defend. But Watford were creating some huge chances.
Couldn't agree more. I thought they were the better team on the day. Whether you want to look at a few minutes in isolation, a period in isolation, or the whole game. I think Tony's point is right that they didn't seem to threaten very often. But when they did, they looked more dangerous. We were always recovering. They were able to find spaces between our lines because our players weren't in position. And when we had the ball, that was not the case at all for them. They showed us how to defend. They gave us a class in how to defend, basically. And whenever they were approaching, closer to our goal, I thought we were a bit passive in that regard. Maybe in the first half, Mavropanos was a bit of a factor in, certain players being a bit more cautious, which is understandable. But in the second half, I thought maybe, we could have done a bit more because we had players waiting on the break. And if you're able to snatch the ball away, then suddenly you have a 3-on-3 or a 2-on-2 in certain scenarios that we just did not capitalize on. But, credit to Watford. They played so well yesterday. They feel so hard done by. If I was a Watford supporter, I'd really feel, unfortunate at this point because they deserve the points. If not a draw, at least a win. We got very, very lucky yesterday. We haven't spoken about the referee, but I thought he had a horrid game. Not in the sense of making some huge decisions, but getting the small ones wrong. And very often I felt, sometimes he just wouldn't call a foul. Sometimes he would. And I think the crowd let him know after a point that, you probably don't know what you're doing. A lot of sarcastic applause towards him as well. So in a nutshell, I thought we were very, very lucky to get away with the result. Happy that, Aubameyang was able to score that goal because after that, we didn't really create anything special.
Just one thing I forgot to say before, another thing where we set up really well against 10 men, we left 3 up when they had the corners. I don't think I've ever seen us do that, ever. But when they got a corner, we left Aubameyang, Iwobi and Mickey up, which why the area was a lot less congested. It wasn't obviously just because they had one of their biggest threats in Deeney off the pitch. It's because we left 3 up, so they had to leave 4 back.
Tony, half time comes, Ozil on, Torreira off. Just probably maybe saving Torreira for the Napoli game, or?
I don't know. I thought it was a very strange substitution. I know we're going to come on to him, but I thought all of his subs were poor yesterday. I thought Torreira had a very good half. The only thing I could possibly think of was protecting him from himself, because you always expect the ref to try and even it up in them sort of games, and they were targeting Torreira. He was fouled quite a few times in the first half, but he made loads of recoveries. He won the ball back loads. I think he had one terrible pass which led to that free kick where Leno made the save, but in general he kept the play ticking over. I thought it was a very strange sub. I mean, Ozil came out basically as soon as the players went in for half time. Ozil came out full kit on, so he's coming on. And in the last few weeks, or even throughout the whole season, you've seen the player come out and do that, and you pretty much know who's going off. The whole stand was sort of sitting there talking and just throwing names out there and reasons why it could be them. And it was Xhaka might not be fit enough to play the 90, and Mickey didn't have the best half. There was so many names thrown out there, and I don't think anyone even considered Torreira, to be honest. I thought it was a very, very... I can understand trying to get Ozil in the 10 because there was so much space in the 10, in that role, in that thing, and then you get Ramsey running off him. So I can understand his thinking. I don't think he took the right player off, to be honest.
Schwinn, and then obviously it goes through, and the next sub was Guendouzi from Mafropanos.
Strange one. Very, very strange. Even the one after that, I think when Ramsey came off. As Tony said, they were very, very strange substitutions. I mean, I'd say the one with Gwen was tactical, and the one with Ramsey was counter-tactical, because Javi Gracia made a substitution that sort of threw Emery's Guendouzi substitution into a fix. We had Mkhitaryan playing right wing back there for a second. Of course, that meant that Mustafi joined Koscielny and Mavropanos, I think, in the back three. Koscielny and Monreal in the back three with Iwobi in the left wing. It was strange. I'm not quite sure what Emery was thinking there. I'm sure there was some method to maybe absorbing pressure better and then leaving players ahead, as Tony just mentioned, to catch them on the break. But it didn't really make that much of a difference, because Watford were very happy to sit back and then hit us on the break and use their physicality and pace to get in behind. But I think this was one case where we have seen so far Emery outclass managers, particularly Pochettino when we played Spurs at home. But I think this was the first case when we have seen that Emery was beaten purely on subs. I think that's a credit to the manager that this is the first time it's happened, but it happened in a woeful way. It was very, very strange to see how he was making changes, and you could see as soon as success came on and Guendouzi was already on the pitch that he was having a conversation with his assistant to try and figure out how to change things. And I think that's what led to the Ramsey substitution. But it's in a way it's a wasted sub, because we could have used maybe a Lacazette later on in the game, if we had to really shore things up, which obviously didn't end up happening. So it's a learning experience. All we can say is that it worked out well for us, luckily. But I don't think we will. That's the portion you want to rely on in the games to come.
Tony, we often, you're not big on stats, but we have to talk about them because, obviously stats goes towards the games and things like that. But, just does this sum up the game a little bit for you boys, just looking at these stats? I was just having a squizzy then as Schwinn was talking. So, Arsenal shots on target 6, shots off target 6, blocked shots 7, shots inside the box 13, shots outside the box 6. Watford shots on target 3, off target 3, block shots 5, woodwork 1, 6 inside and 5 outside.
I mean, they're wrong. They hit the woodwork twice.
Okay, some idiot's fucked up on the stats. He needs sacking. But yeah, so that's that just. I did notice a fair few shots on that, or chances, I suppose. With Arsenal, you thought we should have got that second one, and I think was it last week? Or was it Napoli? No, it was Napoli game. We're a bit similar. Where we thought we could have got that third goal, but we didn't. Was it a bit of a case yesterday as well?
I think it's a different circumstance. I think the easiest way to play against Arsenal is to block the middle of the pitch, let us have the ball wide, because in general we're not going to put crosses in. I mean, that probably explains a lot of the block shots, because there's a lot of bodies in front of the goal. Especially playing a back four, you're not going to get Monreal overlapping the way you do if it's a back five. Also, we don't really want the players to be bombing on and overlapping, because if we get caught short 1-0 up and we're 1-0 up against 10 men and they counter-attack because our fullbacks have gone bombing on, we're sitting here going apeshit. So there's some sense in it. I don't know. Look, I just think they probably won the battle. As Schwinn said, the tactical battle. I would agree that Gracia won it. I mean, our subs made absolutely no sense at all. And also there is. Look, I think it's just the nerves of not winning an away game for so long, or not keeping an away clean sheet all season. You could see when the final whistle went, it was just relief. There wasn't even really a celebration that we'd won. It was just like a big sigh of relief, and thank fuck that's over. We've finally done it. And sometimes you need them, and they come in the worst ways. But then you now believe you can do it because you've done it before, and you can kick on from there. I mean, how many times have we seen strikers that have been on a goal drought and one goes in off their arse, their nose or their elbow or something, and it gets given, and then suddenly they start flying because they now remembered, oh yeah, actually I can score goals. And I'm hoping that's what it is, that we've got the tough one out of the way. We've proved we can win a sort of battle, and then from there, hopefully we now have the belief to go on and win a couple more away games.
Yeah, it's type of Schwinn. I haven't. It's been a long time since we've actually won a game ugly, like especially away.
Yeah, Huddersfield, wasn't it? Because that was pretty ugly. We started with a back five on the day, and I'm not someone who's inherently of the belief that a back five is defensive, but on that day, it surely was defensive.
Yeah, look, I'm just glad we got the 3 points at the end of the day, boys.
Can I comment on that stat that you just laid out, Tez?
Yeah, of course you can.
So, look, I probably am the biggest advocate of stats on this platform, like on our show, amongst the three of us, right? But this is the textbook example of how stats pollute someone's mind. Because on paper, you would definitely take Arsenal's numbers. More shots on target, more shots blocked, obviously more attempts, more shots from inside the box, et cetera. But for anyone who's watched the game, I don't think anyone would argue that Arsenal had better chances or looked more potent than Watford. I think they had better and higher quality chances. I was trying to think as Tony was speaking about any save that Forster had to make, and I can't really think of anything that we challenged him on.
Well, the one from Mickey at the back post is the only one of note, I think. That's right, yeah, which I think was pretty good. But I mean, Leno had to make a few saves. I thought he was decent yesterday. Made some crucial saves, actually, especially the free kick that Capu hit. So, I mean, this is one of those areas where you can look at the stats and feel better about the performance. But I don't think it does justice to how Watford played, and to an extent how poorly we played, despite them being a man down.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. The stats will show you that Arsenal looked good and everything was good there, but anyone watching the game, you can see Watford. I don't know if they were running over top of us, but they just seemed. I've just never seen a team with 10 players do that before. It's been a fucking long time. Probably, someone will correct me. There probably has been teams, but you're up against, one of the top 6 teams in the Premier League, and here you are down to 10 men, and we're still attacking. We're not fucking frightened. It was good to see Watford do it, but bloody hell, it almost paid off for them too. Man of the match, Tony?
For me, Mustafi by an absolute, not by an absolute mile. Mustafi shading it from Iwobi, and no one else anywhere near them too.
Schwinn?
Yeah, very, very hard to argue with that. I thought Mustafi was crucial to how we defended yesterday. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. And sometimes that's how you want your defender to just clear things up, especially when the other team is a man down and you know that a header that's going to go 20, 30 yards away is not going to return to your zone anytime soon, because the odds of the ball landing at your player's feet are higher. And at the same time, if it finds someone in the opposition, it's going to take them a second to recalibrate and find their way back towards your area. I think Leno deserves a shout as well, just because he made a couple of crucial saves. He's made a habit of that, actually, popping up with some big saves and keeping us in the game. So just thought I'll give him a shout. Iwobi was, of course, one of the better players in the day as well. I thought Mickey had a horrible game, especially with his end product, but looked tidy on the ball. Other than that, I don't think anyone, and I'm not putting Mkhitaryan, down as a man of the match contender, but I thought he deserved a shout as well. Other than that, it's really difficult to talk about someone in particular.
Sky Sports gave it to Aubameyang, which I thought was laughable. I thought Mickey was the worst player. The worst player on our side, to be honest. But it's strange. This is how football polarises opinion, because I was scrolling through Twitter earlier, and I've not seen too many mention Mustafi, and I know that not a lot of people like him, but surely got to call the game as you see it. And then I've seen a few people saying Granit was up there, and look, I'm not a Granit basher, and I'm not just saying this to annoy Tez, as funny as it would be. I thought Granit had quite a poor game. I thought he lost a lot of 50-50s, which are not like him. His passing wasn't off, but it wasn't not effective. It wasn't influential. Usually we can count on times when we're breaking and say, Granit done this, Granit done that, played that ball in behind, but there was no real moments I can think of his passing. He lost a few battles. But then I've seen others saying, he was key to our victory. So this is just how football can, 2 people or 10 people can watch the same game and all have completely different opinions.
Yeah, well, just going on stats, boys, and stats alone, because otherwise I don't want to follow suit with you, boys. I'm going to say Granit was my man of the match.
Jeez.
Well, when you look
and people wonder why I don't make it onto the show every week.
Well, look at the stats, right? Let's get down to these stats for a minute that you talked about. So clearances, 26 clearances, ball recoveries, 32 ball recoveries.
Wait.
Aerial
26 clearances? That's not correct.
26 clearances, 36 ball recoveries. Aerial duels lost, 0. Aerial duels won, 58. Duels lost, none. Duels won, 104. Pass completion, 100%. Successful passes, 265 successful passes.
Are you sure his pass completion wasn't 108%?
I'm taking the piss. Look, Iwobi for me as well. Fucking classic.
Just loading up who scored to see who they gave it to, because why not? But my internet's run by a hamster that's not running fast enough currently. They gave it to Mustafi.
Okay. Just on Iwobi though, did I bash him here on the podcast a few weeks ago? I think since that day, he's been well. He played the last Everton or the game's just rolled into each week now. He came on, and I thought he was the best player that came on. It must have been Everton.
Everton. Yeah.
I thought he was brilliant when he come on, and then he comes out with a performance like this yesterday, and I fucking play.
Also, just because he's someone that gets hammered quite a lot. Shout out to Maitland-Niles when he came on. I thought he'd done everything
Absolutely.
right, clearance, and just everything. His passing was crisp. He was sharp. He looked on the ball, and look, we know it seems like you get 1 in 2 from Maitland-Niles. He's either shit or sort of brilliant, and they're 1 week after another. But just thought I'd give him a mention because people do like to criticise him.
I don't want to hammer this bloke, but Nacho Monreal, boys, does he go in the summer, or does he? You want to keep him?
Go.
I mean,
okay.
For me, his contract's up. I think if you could get him to sign a year, he's someone that's useful to have around. I'm not sure if he's a first team player, but then you can't leave fucking Kolasinac as your only left back either.
Mm-hmm. I just think his form's dropped so much in the last 12 months. I don't know why. Because he was last season, he was pretty good. I think he even had more than 8 goals or something under his belt, didn't he, last year?
Mm-hmm. So, I think he was second in terms of the player of the season for the Arsenal, right behind Ramsey.
Yeah, I've just this season he's just gone downhill big time. Maybe age, I suppose, I don't know.
Yeah, he's lost a bit of burst, I think, to an extent. You don't see him marauding that far forward, even if he's playing left back. And, I mean, he did suffer an injury this season, so I wonder how much of an effect that has taken on him. But we haven't given him an extension of the back of a very good season, which, to me, is an indication of him not being around.
Mafropana's first time, was it the first this season? Last season we've seen a glimpse of him. Your thoughts on him, Tony, yesterday?
In the nicest way possible. I thought you could tell he hadn't played for nearly a year.
Inexperience?
Just rusty. He was too eager. He done a lot of things well, to be fair, but he was too eager to try and win the ball. He was challenging for balls that he was never going to win. They had a really good chance in the first half where the ball was on one side of Gray and he's essentially tried to run through him and get it and just ended up on his arse. he had a couple of shaky passes, but he did do things well. I think he was just too keen and too eager to show his worth, and yeah, it didn't go brilliantly.
And the only reason I touch on it, I'm not singling out the kid, but if you remember back the end of last year, I think he played that one game and everybody was like, oh wow, even me, I was like, fuck, this kid, who's this kid? But yeah, hopefully he comes, hopefully he strings a few games together. I think he would have been better to go out on loan this season, but it didn't happen, so. Okay, let's get into some questions that you can ask us. You don't want to touch on anything else on that game, Schwinn? You're happy to move on?
I will touch upon Mavropanos because I've seen a fair bit of criticism towards him, which I agree with in the context of this game. But there was a reason that we were a bit skeptic at the end of last season when he played against United, and I think it was Leicester when he got sent off, about making a judgment very early on. Because when a player makes the move from a younger youth team to the first division and the first team, they tend to not realize that their strengths have been minimized. When Mavropanos is playing against some of the younger players, then you can see that he's using his strength and is able to overpower the opposition. In the Premier League, he's not going to be able to do that week in, week out. And I think we saw that take effect yesterday. And I think it's going to be a humbling experience for him, where he realizes that his biggest strength, which is his strength, is not going to be as big anymore. And it will probably force him, or it should force him, to develop other of his other abilities. Maybe work on better positioning, or maybe athletically he has to be a bit more fit to be able to cover ground despite his size. So I think it's going to be a good experience because Watford were very good. I don't think I can stress that enough. And Deeney, of course, for being on there for 10, 15 minutes. And then even Andre Gray, who poses a different threat, is going to humble the kid. And if he is a good professional who wants to make a good career in football, he's going to take this as a learning curve and not be deterred by it.
Okay, let's get into some questions now. And so you can get, we usually throw a question thread out at, where are we? Clock End Talk. Clock End _ Talk. Is that it? Yeah. At Clock End _
Right,
Talk.
we've only had it for 2 years.
I'm looking at our frigging blog as well as I'm reading it, so it's fucking completely throwing me. But anyway, yeah, so you can get your questions there. We usually throw out after the game. Thomas says, Tony, we need someone in the middle who used to do what Sandy and Cess did, and even Song done at times, and will go pick it up from the deep and make things happen quickly instead of the backways and sideways stuff when there is a chance to play it forward. Thoughts?
Look, for me, I think I'm not comparing the level of Granit to Cesc and Cazorla, but for me, Granit is a better progressive passer than Song ever was. I don't know if that's just... I know that people are going to bring up the few assists he got for Van Persie, but I don't know if that's just a bit of a romantic memory, comparing Song there. And look, Fabregas is possibly the best player of the Emirates era. He's definitely in the conversation. So, saying we need that type of player, I think everyone at the peak says Fabregas. I don't think there's many teams in the world that he wouldn't get in. Look, he played for probably the best club side, arguably ever, in Barcelona under Pep. So that shows the level of the player you're comparing it to there. And who is that player? I wouldn't even know if you said, "Oh, we need that player," even if who is it in current football?
No, before Santi came, did we even realise who Santi was?
Well, people forget that the first 2 years here he played on the wing. So that was someone converted.
Yeah.
But again, yeah. Put the name out there? I don't know. No. I don't think there's that many. Look, I'm not saying Xhaka's the best player on earth, but in terms of that role at the moment, for someone who's gettable, I don't think there's anyone that's a more progressive passer, a better progressive passer than Granit who's available. Yeah, look, Tony Kroos probably passes the ball better. Go and ask Real Madrid if they'll sell him to us. I'll tell you the answer.
Somebody will say something to you, though.
I'm asking who the player is. I'm not against it, but I can't really think of anyone that would be gettable. Or someone's going to come out with someone that plays in Division 3 in France who's they've seen on FIFA, and they're going to tell everyone that they're an expert and they know all about them. But if we sign that person, then they would be, why are we signing these little French kids?
I know you might. I'm not taking it, but you might think, "Oh, fucking wake up yourself, Tez." I don't. I look, and whether he's Arsenal level or not, I'm just thinking outside the box here. Aaron Moyes, I think he's a really good passer with the ball, but I don't know if he's up to an Arsenal level.
He's not, and he plays a lot further forward as well. We're talking about passing from deep, getting the ball forward.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have players who are good on the ball, but I mean, especially in that part of midfield, you need them to be so intelligent. I mean, someone who's fallen prey to this is John Joe Shelby. You know, he can find a dime from 50, 60 yards out, but in terms of positioning, then you're making a trade-off. And in that part of the park, I mean, how many times have we talked about Granit's improvement in being able to draw fouls by putting his body between the ball and the opposing player, or just picking his head up very quickly to play the ball out of pressure. Those things are not easy to do. It's easy to look up, have time and space, and find your target. But midfield, especially from that part, is about so much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you got a player? Could you think of anyone, Schwinn? A player that's a better progressive passer?
No. I mean, there's obviously big things being talked about when it comes to players like De Jong, but that transition to make from the Dutch league, which I have no malice towards, and I'm not putting them on a lower pedestal, but for players like that to make the leap, they're very few and far between. And
it's also someone that's completely not gettable.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, in terms of Asante, I mean, for me, he's not necessarily a ball progressor. He's someone who can dribble with the ball, and despite being pressured, he can wriggle his way out of it, right? He's not someone who's going to sit deep and orchestrate stuff. He's not a Pirlo. I think in that way, maybe an Isco would fit. But again, he falls in that same category that he's ungettable.
I'll throw you one, and Zonzi. Now, there's talk about that he is gettable. So let's
he's gettable, but he can't pass a football.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so it's very hard.
Yeah, I'm gettable, but I'm not an improvement. They can sign me if they want.
but he's not even in the conversation, is he?
No. He's not a progressive passer.
For you, Schwinn?
No, I mean, if anything, he'd be someone who's more in the Torreira vein. Maybe a bit less active in terms of covering distance, but relying on his strength to break up play and his positioning to break up play, and not necessarily someone who's going to orchestrate the game. I mean, Berardi, Thiago, those are the sort of players that you probably look into for the category of players we're talking about right now.
I would love a Berardi. Would love him.
Yeah. 100 million,
big
70
fan,
million.
Big fan of him. You'd never get him. It'd never happen.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Schwinn. The amount of shit Kashani goes through every game, he never shies away from a tackle. He carried an injury for a year, which eventually caught up with him and kept him out for half a year. He's come back and been great. Describe his career at Arsenal from an MAA gunner.
Great question. I mean, great statement as well. I think when he came back, his first game against Southampton, I think all of us were pretty quick to judgment in that case that he's probably done at this level. But at this point, I would argue he's our best central defender in the team, and I think that is a testament not to his present quality, but a testament to his career at the Arsenal. He's been very reliable. Even statistically, if you look at his pairing with Mertesacker, I think that was one of the best periods for our club in terms of defending and in terms of not conceding goals. One could easily argue, pound for pound, he's been one of our better signings, maybe top 3 signings in the Emirates era. I think what was the amount? I think 7 million, maybe 8, if I'm not mistaken, that we brought him in for. Yeah, so, I mean, other than Cesc and maybe, I mean, I can't even think of other players. Other than Cesc, I don't think there's too many contenders for that.
Cesc isn't really Emirates era either. In terms of signing, sorry. In terms of signing, right. Cesc wasn't Emirates era.
Right, but I think he's one of those players who has gone unappreciated more recently, and was someone who was a fixture in the team for many years. So I'm given a lot of patience and positivity when I see his name on the team sheet these days, because with players like Mustafi around, and I know he had a good game yesterday, but generally speaking, they don't really instill confidence in you, and Koscielny's name on the team sheet does. And I think that really tells you all you need to know about him.
Tony MAA Gunner says, I'm starting to think that the fullback area have become a bigger priority to fix than the CB position. Monreal is slow and probably leaving. Kolasinac can't defend. Maitland-Niles isn't a right back, leaving us with Bellerin, who still has defensive flaws.
It depends what you're looking for. You look at Kolasinac and Bellerin, they add so much to our game offensively, and he's bang on. They're not the best defenders, but unless we get someone that's all round, which again there's not many names out there, then you're going to have to settle for one of the two. And it seems like his choice would be someone that can attack a bit better, which is what Bellerin and Kolasinac can do. I think that if Nacho goes, we are going to need another left back, because Kolasinac ain't got the fitness to do a season being the first choice, playing every week or the majority of weeks. But I mean, it's like you look at. I remember when we were talking about right backs before, and I was saying who's an improvement on Bellerin that's gettable, and the only one the name that really came up quite often and strongly was the guy from Napoli, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce. HSYJ or whatever it is.
You can't pronounce it. What chance have I got?
No, I'm not going to butcher it because you'll record it and it'll be in our intro for the next 5 years. But I know it's a one-off game, but last week against us, he didn't get forward and was shit defensively. That could all change on Thursday, but I think there's very few about that can do both, and it shows that Bayern have just paid 80 million for one of the left backs that can do both, that can defend and attack. There's not that many around, and whether you call that a dearth in quality of fullbacks at the moment, or that they're just more focused on attacking than they are defending, so then you get these players that are great going forward and not brilliant at the back, who knows? But that's just the world we're in. As I said, when you've got a world where left backs are going for 80 million because he can defend and attack, it kind of shows where we are, and the team that's brought him is the team that probably has top 3 left back in the world already anyway.
Look, and I don't play FIFA, but I dabble in Football Manager, and I don't want to compare anything here, but I tell you, I struggle every time I pick up that game to find a left back or a right back to grab for under like 40 to 50 mil in that game. And I don't want to, obviously FIFA, I don't want to be the FIFA fanboy or whatnot on here. But I struggle every time to fucking find somebody for them 2 positions. So I don't know what Arsenal will do. I got no idea.
I mean, the people, especially left back, will throw names out there, Tagliafico, Tierney, but who knows? They're unknown. And would they come in at first choice? Again, who knows? Interesting summer ahead. I mean, I would, if we had however much money, pick a figure and said you could only buy one position, I think for me it would be a centre back over a full back of either side, to be honest.
Centre back. Vish says, he's run right up your fucking alley, Schwinn. If the Premier League were likened to Game of Thrones, which house would represent Arsenal?
The house where everyone's bored.
The house where everyone what?
Is bored.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
Whatever it says, I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, there's a few similarities between Game of Thrones houses and the Arsenal. It's tough to say though which one exactly would fall under, because I think House Stark would probably be the right one, just because we make the obvious mistakes of honor and loyalty at times, or have in the past. But at the same time, as the protagonists of the show, we do end up making good runs at the end of the season, which salvages the mistakes we made in the first half of the season. So that's probably a decent comparison. I know it means nothing to you guys, so we'll just swiftly move on.
I disagree. I think you chose the wrong house there.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back.
Between you banging on about Football Manager and him playing Make the Dragons, what podcast this is?
Still better than horse racing, I'll tell you that.
Fucking not.
It's not better than horse racing. Did you see? Oh no, we won't go into it.
No, please don't. I did not. Let's just fucking move on.
Oh, so he bangs on about Game of Thrones in 2 different segments. Dragons flying about.
We can't even mention a fucking simple little horse.
Yes, they fucking exist.
Gator Gooner, how much of Wenger hangover are we still suffering? Contracts, players, etc. I loved Wenger, but I'm honest about his last few years. Tony.
Oh, I thought this room was going to start talking about Game of Thrones. Look, I'm so bored of this. Every time something's not going right, it's Wenger's fault. When it goes brilliantly, it's well done, new era, Emery, Raul, whoever. Look, his last few years weren't good. This is not me sitting here trying to say, everything he done was perfect. But, I mean, at some point, you've got to sort yourselves out. Obviously, the Ramsey issue has been... it's been an issue for a long time. I wouldn't blame it on Wenger. Whether you blame it on Gazidis and previous occupants of jobs. But, I mean, with that Ramsey issue's been not in it's been dealt with in the worst way possible, but it's been dealt with. It's been and gone. Beyond that, I don't know really where you're looking. I mean, everyone knows that Wenger didn't want to give Ozil the $350 a week anyway, so you can't look at that. And I don't know what else could possibly be seen as a hangover. You can't, people might say, the signing of Mustafi wasn't brilliant, but every manager's going to come into a squad with players that they don't really fancy or that aren't good enough. You can't because Emery hasn't got 25 world-class players, you can't say, it's a hangover of the Wenger era. That's football. It is what it is. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's gone into United. There's sure as hell players he doesn't like. I mean, he's basically sent Sanchez off to walk his dogs while he's on £500,000 a week. Mm-hmm. Is that a Mourinho hangover? Or, do you know what I mean? You can't just... Or when Moyes took over from Fergie and they came up 8th, I think, that season. Does that say, Fergie, it's a Fergie hangover, when Fergie had just won the league with them the year before? It's always going to be that way. I just think it's one of them phrases that was started by the press and now just gets used for absolutely everything. Every time anything goes wrong, it's a hangover from this, it's a hangover from that.
But I do understand. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I understand it a little bit, because when you have a manager there for so long like Wenger and Saf at Man United, and there's an argument saying they still haven't fucking recovered from Saf at United, and they've gone through 5 managers now.
Mourinho, Solskjaer, Moyes, Van Gaal.
Yeah, for 4 managers. So and Arsenal are obviously. Well, I think we've been going pretty well under Emery. Yeah, there's some things that baffle me some weeks. I think, what and how is he doing? But hey, we're sitting in 4th position. We're looking good for Europa League, touch wood. And do you call that a hangover? I don't know, really, be honest, with Arsenal's sake. But I do understand the analogy of a hangover, though, because when you look at teams like Chelsea, who seem to have a different manager every season, they're just I feel them players are used to that, where I don't know whether Arsenal and Man United would be, because they had that manager there for so long. But yeah, I don't actually, Man United, I don't know, because they've probably got half a new team there since Saf left now, so... Yeah, I understand a little bit, but I do understand what you're saying too. You tend to get sick of it, don't you?
Well, it's just that every time anything goes not as we expect, yes, it's because Wenger done something. And it's like, again, in relation to yesterday's game, I don't know what part of that you're looking at and going, it's because Wenger was there 9 months ago. What? Where's the Wenger effect on yesterday's game?
Well, the only thing I can Look, I read an article before the Watford game that obviously our away record is so bad this season, and it was so bad last season. So they're type of putting the two things together and saying, well,
but then okay, our home form this season is completely down to Wenger.
Sorry.
Our home form this season is because Wenger had good home form last season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you're going to say
because I'm being ridiculous when I say that, but when you say the same thing about being away, somehow it's a logical point.
Like, I get that totally.
But well done, Arsene Wenger. You've had a brilliant home season this year. He's done it again.
The media seem to love a good punch.
Oh, that's what I mean. But people then go on to believe it. Like, they read it in the papers or hear it on TV or hear it on Twitter. Twitter's the worst for it, to be fair. And then it just becomes almost fact. Like, oh, we're bad away because Wenger's team was bad away last season. So that's it. It's nothing to do with anyone else. It's all Wenger. And this isn't me particularly defending Wenger, but you can't, as I've said it a million times, I said it on the podcast with Jack a couple of weeks ago, you can't have it both ways. If it's his fault when it's bad, it's his praise when it's good. You can't have it. It can't be his fault when it's bad and then someone else is done well when it's right.
Mm-hmm. Vish says, Schwinn, happy with... I don't know if this is a question or not because I haven't read it. So he says, happy with a clean sheet and away win, albeit in a very unconvincing... Albeit, is it? Okay. In a very convincing fashion, did our boys play within themselves, trying to protect themselves with the Napoli game looming, or were Watford that much better than us, even with a man down?
Did he say convincing fashion or unconvincing fashion?
Unconvincing fashion.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure whether we tried to play within ourselves particularly. I mean, that would mean more possession. That would mean a bit sharper in moving the ball quickly. And I don't think that was quite the case. I think to an extent it was, to borrow a word from the previous discussion, a hangover of sorts. I think it was lethargic to an extent. And I'm not saying it's a Wenger hangover, but just a hangover in general.
Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah. So it was, I think it was nervy, maybe. I think there was a sense of complacency as well, despite Watford doing well with the ball when they managed to get on. I think there was an element of, we are up by a man and we'll be all right. Maybe towards the end of the game, I think there was a bit of game management going on where I think Ozil was trying to direct players, particularly Iwobi and Mkhitaryan, to go towards the corner flag and try and retain possession. So there was a sense of that going on towards the end of the game. But, when I tweeted out something after the game about the subs we made, and someone made an argument to me that maybe Emery is thinking about the Napoli game coming up. And I understand that train of thought, but in the moments when the subs were made, I don't think that's the right time to be thinking about the Napoli game. And, that's where I sort of disagree with playing within ourselves and trying to protect what we had, because we weren't really doing that well, even if we were trying. I think Watford were just very good. And as I said at the top of the show, just extremely unlucky not to get anything from the game yesterday. So all in all, a very, very lucky day for us and a very unlucky day for Watford.
Okay, Pierre, Aubameyang Golden Boot. Tony, no, we won't go him. We'll go Clay Conservative first. I would just like to point out the Arsenal unicorn has been sighted. Mustafi has had not just one, but two back-to-back solid performances. Manager deserves a shout here too. For the years I've seen us lose these games, winning ugly hasn't really happened for us until this year. So not a question, just a shout out. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang Golden Boot. Why were we so lax in our attacking play? Did we have one eye on the Napoli game, Schwinn? But before you answer that, me and Tony, and I know you don't listen to the podcast, but me and Tony were discussing, when you got a 50-50 on both leagues, Europa League and the Premier League, you're in top four, Premier League and Europa League, look, we're still there with a very, very solid chance. How does he pick a team? Like me and Tony both said, good luck with that.
It's very difficult. The good thing, however, is that both streams of tournaments are very different. So the Premier League has its own set of challenges that it comes with, particularly with the away games. And Wolves away are going to be tough. Palace at home is going to be tough. Leicester away can be tricky. So when you contextualize what's down each path, I think it's obvious with Emery's pedigree and with Arsenal sort of have become a tournament team, for lack of a better term, over the last 2-3 years. One could argue that the Europa League is where we should concentrate. I mean, I've said all along that I don't think we're going to make top 4. And it's because of some of these factors that I've maintained that. And if I was in Emery's shoes, I'd play to my strengths and I'd play to the team's strengths. And for me, those lie in Europe, not in England.
And you weren't here when Jack was here. I think Tony asked me and you weren't here. Me and Jack a question: how many points can we drop? Wasn't it Tony or something like that?
Well, how many points for you get us into the top 4?
I think before the Watford game, someone asked me that, and I said that I think we'll get 8 points. But I said that if we get 12, we should be able to make top 4, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what I said.
Okay.
So you think 9 more gets us it?
I think so, yes. I think if we get 3 wins...
I mean, my answer was 12. But so then after now, if you only thought we've got 8, we'd get 8. We've got 3 of them. So now you think 9 more gets us it, but you think we'll only get 5.
Correct.
So you think we're dropping points to Palace or Brighton at home?
Palace or Wolves.
No, but I'm saying I mean one of them, because obviously if you're.
Oh yeah. Palace or Brighton or even Burnley, because they're in the thick of it.
No, but what I'm saying, if you think we're only going to get 5 points, I'm saying you think we're dropping points in one of our home games.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Palace more so than Brighton, but yeah.
Well, I said 12 as well, and at that time though, I was thinking. Obviously, so was that before Everton game?
No, day after.
The day after. So, yeah, that was after we dropped points to Everton. What I thought this game was going to be tough, and I also thought the Wolves game was going to be tough. I think the other ones we've got it sorted. Leicester, Brighton, and who's the other one? Palace. Anyway, we're in a good position. Tony, I'm just trying to work. There's a bit of a thread going on here. So it started with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang goal and boot. Is this Deeney thing a bit pathetic? We as fans get too sensitive. He just capitalised on our poor performances at the time, and maybe we shouldn't be so triggered.
Got him sent off though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I wonder if there's a question in there. I don't know. Am I missing something?
Should we as fans be bothered by what Deeney says? But I said it gets him riled up. But if it does it the wrong way, then it worked into our advantage yesterday. Do you think if there wasn't that animosity there that he does that? Probably not. Or if he might have still done it, but if it hadn't been highlighted and he hadn't said stuff in the press like, I hit him hard early on and see who wants it, and it's not in the ref's mind that it's been an intentional action, or the linesman's mind. So it can work both ways. You can spur a player on to play better, but we saw the opposite of it yesterday. I've seen quite a few things like this saying, the battle between us and him is pathetic, or he's right, we show no cojones. And I was like, yesterday, that is the exact opposite of what happened.
I don't know. Look, fans get too sensitive and not like, I don't know. But
in answer to the general question, they do.
Yeah,
we do.
Well, I don't. You don't. Schwinn might, but look,
Jesus.
I know I don't know if it's a good comparison or not. Cricket players do it during the game, every game, and they do it just to try and get that advantage and roll the batsman up or the bowler up or whatever it is. So, it's just a tactic. It just really is a tactic, and it's just sport.
I think there's bigger factors at play though. I think the reason it triggers us is because to an extent we know it's true. It might not have been yesterday, but all in all, I think it's safe to say that we are a soft team. I'm not talking about individual challenges. I'm not talking about particular situations, but it's a known recipe for a lot of teams, whether they're better in quality than us or worse, that they know that if it's a physical battle, then we're not going to relish that. So more than someone calling us names, I think the reason it affects us as a fan base is because we somewhere down deep know it's true.
Tony, obviously it was away. I don't know what the away fan brigade was at Watford, but if it was at home, would Deeney be saying that, and would he get slaughtered by the fans? And the other question is, the Arsenal home fans, but the other thing is, did he get slaughtered by the Arsenal away fans at Watford, or they drowned you out?
No, he got hammered, to be fair. But look, he said the comment, was it a year ago, 2 years ago now? So I don't think home or away comes into it at all. I know we ended up losing there last year, but it was a dive for a penalty and an offside goal. But yeah, I don't think that what he said affects home or away.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think it's different home or away. He said it. I think it was 2 years ago now he said it, because he obviously said it and then he's missed a penalty against us since. He's been sent off against us since. I don't think he's ever scored against us.
But does he get hammered every time? Like he's the man that is hammer?
He catches some abuse. I think, look, he's their most recognisable player. Whether he's their best player is a different story. They're most recognisable. So when a team comes and then their most recognisable player is always going to catch more flack than anyone else anyway. And then it comes that he has said stuff about us, so it's even more reason. But look, this is the reason that these type of questions annoy me is because the same people are saying, "Oh, we've got no atmosphere." But when we're all hammering someone, especially if it's all the same player, it makes it loud. It gets an atmosphere. Okay, it might be for a petty reason. Oh, he made a comment we didn't like. But if you've got 60,000 people shouting and on his back, surely that's the atmosphere you're craving. So on one hand, they're going, "Oh, it's pathetic having a battle with some average striker from Watford." But then a minute later, they're going, "Oh yeah, but the atmosphere's shit, innit?" Like, choose one.
Oh mate, you gotta give it to him. You gotta. That's what's the whole atmosphere and everything. There to fucking yell out on the fucking pitch. As long as it's not racist abuse and carrying on like that bloke last week with Napoli. But that's what it's about, isn't it? Create the atmosphere. He's your boo boy player, so get into him. Yeah, I don't understand it. Sushant. How are you, buddy? Haven't heard from you forever. Thank you.
You can't say his name.
You never.
Forever. We did speak about this before. So he's asking us, how do you find Emery's subs? I found they're not helpful to our game. Maybe injuries forced his hands. What are your take on it? So, Tony, you'd mentioned it. Schwinn, what was your take on it? You pretty much mentioned it too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. It's been talked about. We can gloss over that for now.
Yeah. David G, he says, having watched live Premier League games, can Tony and at Schwinn tell us, or at AFC Schwinn, tell us how Aubameyang's movement in the penalty area is, because this most of the time doesn't get on camera unless he scores a goal, Tony?
It's probably the best aspect of his game. It's so underrated. It's painful. Like, it's one of them things. People go, he only scores tap-ins. Okay, there's an argument for that. I don't agree with it, but if he's only scoring tap-ins, why doesn't everyone do it? What makes him able to score tap-ins all the time and not other people? And it is purely his movement is that good. He's like, I've never seen. He must stink, because I've never seen someone have so much space in the Premier in the area so often. Like, I think he just doesn't wear deodorant. I think that must be what's going on. No, his movement is top drawer. I think we highlighted it earlier in the season. If you look back at the Burnley game at home, where Ozil played that ball that everyone was basically wanking over, and it was a great ball, but it was Aubameyang that ended up scoring the goal. And look at his movement. Ozil plays that cross into the back post, and Aubameyang is a yard or two behind his defender. By the time he kicks it into the goal, the defender's in the same place and Aubameyang's 2 yards in front of him and taps it into an open goal, or volleys it into an open goal. His movement in the box, he just seems to have this instinct of essentially knowing where the ball's going to go. It's very rare across.
When we're attacking, you've got your eye on him, thinking something's going to happen here with him. Like you can see from that.
Well, yeah, it's very rare that he's like completely marked or out of the game. I mean, even say I'm just trying to think of games off the top of my head. Man United at home in the cup, he scores a tap in at the back post, and people go, "Oh, anyone would have scored that. I would have scored that. I would have." But why is our top striker? How has he managed to be on his own in the 6-yard box? I don't know how he does it, but he just always manages to find that space, and it's very underrated. I think as well he uses his pace cleverly because he doesn't always run at full speed. He kind of stops and starts. His acceleration is very good. More than his top speed, I think his acceleration is one of his biggest assets. So he goes from nothing, a standing start, to fast very quickly. So he'll stand still, the defender will stop, and then he goes again. And I don't think anyone's going to keep up with him on pure acceleration. For me, I think, as I said, I think his movement is his best asset, and I think probably Cavani is the only other player I've seen live who can even compare to Aubameyang's movement.
I was going to say, is Aubameyang the best you've seen?
I mean, no, Cavani, I remember watching him and thinking if this guy could finish, he'd score 100 goals a season every season. Yeah. I've never seen anything like Cavani. I mean, he was playing against our defence, so there is a bit of a, well, how hard is it? But literally every time he moved, I thought he was going to score.
Yeah. I agree with you with Cavani because I often think, like, how does he get the goals? Like, and we don't see it on camera.
Honestly, watching Cavani live was the biggest eye opener I've ever seen to how good movement can be.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just me. I had people, like friends, that were sitting in other parts of the ground, and before I'd even said anything, there was people like I would go and meet them in a pub or whatever after the game, and they would just like, if he could finish, he'd win the Ballon d'Or.
Well, there you go.
He'd get that many goals. He's just in space all the time because he just doesn't stop moving. So it's so hard to mark because he's always on the move. You don't know if he's going forwards, back, pulling out, coming short, spinning in behind. He must be a fucking nightmare to play against.
Okay, well that's it for the questions. So thank you everybody for getting them in, and hopefully we've gone through all of them, Tony, because we had a little hiccup, technical difficulties last week, and
we might still.
Yeah, we might still here too, and we blame Schwinn for that. So, where am I? clockandtalk.blogspot.com. We got some ratings out, Schwinn by Craig. Just going through them, mate. So you can find them on our website, and Craig and the boys do a good job there. Leno 7.5, Granite 7.5, Ramsey 7.5. Trying to think who his man of the match was. Where am I?
When you say trying to think, do you mean you have them open in front of you, so you're trying to read?
No, I can't see it. I seriously can't see more than a 7.5.
Well, then that's whoever's them on 7.5.
7.5s, yeah. Okay. You know what I was fucking looking for, don't you? Sorry, Craig. I was looking for Lacazette's name. Then I realised, fuck, he didn't play.
I don't usually stop him.
And he gave Emery a 7. Thoughts that was his ratings. Now another one that I want to touch with you boys, because I did a poll during the week of last week for this. What's his name? Bloody Joe Hurd. He done an article on it. Aaron Ramsey legend status. So obviously he's leaving us at the end of the season. Does Ramsey go down as an Arsenal legend for you, Tony?
I had this. I went for food before the game yesterday. I went for food and then to the pub, and I had this conversation with my friends while we was eating. For me, no, because I mean,
okay,
he's not taken us to a title. He's got 2 winners in cup finals, which helps. I mean, Sanchez scored in 2 cup finals, but you don't remember them because they're not the winners, even though they're arguably. I mean, especially the Chelsea one is as important. He's got the first goal inside 4 minutes or whatever it was. The way I think the term legend is used too loosely. This is not taking anything away from Ramsey, because I'm a big Ramsey fan. And Schwinn was saying earlier that he thinks Koscielny is possibly best value for money in the Emirates era. For me, it's Ramsey without any shadow of a doubt. But legend gets thrown around way too easy for me. The simple way I think of it, and this might be really basic and really harsh, is would I want a Ramsey statue outside the stadium alongside Adams, Bergkamp and Omri? And for me at the moment, no. He's not. He's not. If they said today was be a 4 statue, he wouldn't be in my top 5. Yeah. Don't ask me to name.
No, that's a fair call though when you put it down to like that. Schwinn, don't let Tony influence you with that though. You got a counter argument there, or are you going to agree with him?
No, I do have a counter argument. I mean, I agree with Tony in the sense that the word legend gets thrown out too easily, and if you define it the way Tony has defined his rendition of a legend, then yeah, by those standards, he isn't a legend. But I'd argue that for me, by my standards, he is. I think being able to deliver those cup final goals and more importantly, be the model professional he is. You know, I've spoken about his injuries so many times because for me to come back from something like that in the fashion he did and to continue working with the club for so long is a big factor in that. Even the way he's leaving, you know, it's not exactly on bad terms. It's something that could have been salvaged perhaps if he wasn't so greedy as the media seems to suggest. But I think players have to have that sort of foresight. They have to have accountability towards themselves because their careers are not the longest. And we've seen many players in the past, you know, go bankrupt because they haven't used their money wisely. And it's only fair on them to take care of themselves and their families. So I don't hold any malice towards him in that fashion. What I care about is how he performed, whether he delivered at the highest level that we were performing at, and whether he remained true to what we stand for as a club. And on all those accounts, he's passed with flying colors. So for me, he is a legend.
Okay. Look, I kind of agree with Tony a little bit. For me, if I think statue at the front of the Emirates, I'm not thinking a Ramsey statue. But I also see your argument as well, Schwinn. I really appreciate Ramsey. And still this season, I really appreciate his loyalty to the club and his form. I think, to sum it up, it was a bit unfair, a few injuries that he got throughout his career. And what we 4.8 million or something we bought him for from Cardiff. So I think it was a brilliant buy. But
look, as I said, for me, he's the best value for money of the Emirates era. I think my argument against it as well is I think most people, their argument for him being a legend is about loyalty and longevity. But I don't know this, but without looking, I'm almost certain that if you look into our 10 longest serving players or 10 most appearance players, he's not in either. And also the loyalty argument is kind of flawed. I'm not blaming him. I don't blame him for going Juventus at all. But the loyalty argument is completely flawed that as soon as a big money offer came in for him, he's jumped ship. And I don't blame him. I agree with Schwinn. He's got to look after himself. But when people are basing him on as a legend based on loyalty and service, he's jumped ship at the first decent chance he's got. And as I said, he's not in the top 10 for either loyalty or longevity. And then if you combine that with ability, he's above some of them, but he's also not in the top 10 for ability to ever play for us. So, I mean, how many people are legends? If he's not in the top 10 for any of them characteristics, then what's a legend now? The top 100 players that have played for your club? The top 1,000? Am I a legend because I've been to a few games? Like, where does it stop?
Mm-hmm. No, I see what you're saying, and that's why for me, if you look at the statues out the front of Emirates, I don't see Ramsey at all. Our Twitter poll, we got 1,600 votes, so did all right. 75% people have said yes, and 25% people have said no. Obviously, the poll's still open for another 4 days, but there's plenty of comments there and people explaining why they've said no. So anyway, check it out on our Twitter and let us know, is Ramsey legend in your status? Is he a legend in your mind? It's going to be it's funny though, like it's almost an end of an era for us all because we've seen Chamberlain leave, we've seen Wilshere go, Walcott's left, and Ramsey's also now heading out. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Like players that I thought would stay with us pretty much until they retired, but I just find it a little bit, I don't know, a little bit heartbreaking that, he's probably the last of the. I'm trying to think the last
British core.
Yeah, it's just that, you know what I mean. Like when you think Arsenal, I always thought Ramsey, Wilshere. You always think of them players for the last 10 years, and now he's probably the last of them, and he's gone. So.
Well, look at it this way: we still have Jenko, exactly.
Oh yeah, Jenko. Yeah. How can I forget? Jenko. Anyway, boys, that'll wrap us up. Oh, just quickly, I know Tony won't give a prediction, so Schwinn, Napoli, you're confident there, mate?
It's so hard because we're so hit or miss. This is going to be away from home. It's not going to be an easy place to visit. I'm not sure how many Arsenal fans are going to be making the trip either. Whoever is going, though, and if you're listening, please be careful. I'll go for a 1-1 draw. I think that's the sort of mentality Emery's probably going to go into the game with. And, we've earned ourselves that cushion, so we should do best to preserve that and maybe try and exploit the other team when they're committing bodies forward. So take it easy, get the result, come back home, no injuries, please.
Okay. Tony, with you, mate, I'm going to go a different direction on the Napoli game because you never give a fucking prediction. But Iwobi, we pretty much all said, he's played a brilliant couple of weeks. Mustafi's played a great couple of weeks. Aubameyang hasn't been the Aubameyang. Like, okay, he got the winning goal against Watford, but he's been a bit of a hit and miss the last couple of games. What's your thoughts with Emery? Like, obviously Lacazette's going to be starting, but does now Iwobi obviously get in front for Aubameyang, and obviously Mustafi starts there as well?
Well, I mean, first of all, before I answer what you just asked, I think this game's really worrying in that if we would have, say, drawn the first leg 1-1, 0-0, and gone out there and lost, it's not too heartbreaking. If we go and lose there now, lose the tie. If we lose 1-0, it's fine. But if we go there now and lose the tie, it's such a confidence destroyer. And I think it could set a bad mentality if we go out. So I am really worried about the game. In terms of, you're essentially asking who he starts. You're looking now that it looks like Aubameyang's not going to start. I don't agree with that. I said I think you want to stretch them on the break because they're inevitably going to have to push on or play a little bit higher than they would usually like to because they've got to close us down and chase the goal. It's difficult because if you assume Aubameyang's on the bench, look, you don't know. Aubameyang could be super fit. We've never really been questioned into his fitness. Like, we know Ramsey's super fit. We know Kolasinac isn't. With Aubameyang, we've never really heard one way or the other. But, playing 90 yesterday, you'd assume he's not going to play or he's not going to start, which obviously means Lacazette. I'm convinced we'll go back five. Socrates, Koscielny. I don't know if Mustafi gets in, to be honest.
Okay.
Because if he likes to play Monreal on that left edge, the left of the three. If he plays Mustafi, Socrates, and Koscielny, then I'm not sure who plays on the left. Probably Socrates, and then you don't bring the ball out as well, unless it goes Koscielny there. But then again, you've got the legs running into the channel. And you go Kolasinac, Maitland-Niles. I think that was his team selection yesterday showed that I think Kolasinac and Maitland-Niles will play. I think he'll go Ramsey, Torreira and Xhaka with Lacazette, and it leaves one other position. He could do very similar to what we've done at Tottenham, actually, with Lacazette. Yeah, I think how we played at Tottenham. Essentially, he played Guendouzi instead of Torreira.
You're going to have to remind me, mate, because I'm thinking Tottenham game, as you're talking, so listeners might be thinking too, how do you go at Tottenham again?
Well, no, it's difficult because he played a back four, but I think he will go a five. But I meant in terms of attacking setup, he'll have Lacazette pretty isolated and hope that Ramsey can make up the gap with his energy, and then he'll have the two behind them in Torreira and Xhaka.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think he'll go two behind one.
Ozil doesn't start.
Well, I'm not sure because I think he'll go two behind Lacazette, so I don't think he'll go for width. I think he'll want the wing backs to provide the width, and he'll go Lacazette up top with two behind them, one being Ramsey, and the other one. Before yesterday, I would have said Mkhitaryan. After yesterday, It could be Ozil, it could be Iwobi, it could be Mickey Steele.
Yeah.
It could be Aubameyang, and they play a little bit wider. I think that's probably, in my mind, that's the two positions that are up for grabs are that one. So whether we go one behind two or two behind one, and that dictates who that player is. And then at the back, does he keep it Socrates, Koscielny, Monreal, or has Mustafi worked his way in? In which case, I think it'll be Monreal dropped, but then who plays on the left of the three?
Yeah,
I think there's only two positions where I'm a bit like unsure.
Sure of, yeah. Leno or Czech?
It will be Czech.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I only bring that up because a lot of people were a bit filthy with Czech coming in the first league. They were going, oh, Leno's been informed. You'd think that, Leno would be the starter, the informed keeper as well in this late into the Europa League.
It's just the way cup keepers work. I don't know if you heard when Watford went through into the cup final, like someone asked their manager, will Aurelio Gomez has been your cup keeper? Will he continue to play? I think the manager said, yeah, and then they interviewed Ben Foster, and they said, are you like disappointed, or you're trying to work your way into the cup final team? And he said, if the manager picks me, I'll refuse to play.
Oh, well, there you go.
Said he's the cup keeper. He's done it all season. He's not made a mistake. It's not like he's been horrendous at any point. Yeah. So it's his job.
It's his job. That's where he is. Yeah. No. That's bloody respect. That fair dinkum. Wow. Okay, boys. I'm not going to give a real prediction. I don't know.
Oh. So after all the shit I get.
Okay. I'll go 3-1 Arsenal. Napoli for me. They're just. Yeah, they're not good.
Schwinn, do you see the team too much different from me, or?
To be honest, you cut out in the middle, so I didn't hear the full thing.
You'll have to listen back to the podcast and then answer you.
How will I do that? Apparently, I don't do that, so that's not going to be an option.
You got fucking no chance of that. He blames his laptop or something.
Well, give us your starting lineup. Will Ozil start for you, Schwinn? Obviously, Lacazette's going to be up front. Mustafi was the one. Tony.
Just give us your lineup rather than fucking Tez giving you every hint under the sun towards what I said. Give us your lineup. Matches.
We've got to help the bloke out.
Back five, Czech in goal, Kolasinac and Maitland-Niles as wing backs. Socrates, Koscielny, Monreal, Shaka Torreira. No, they're not. Either of them are not suspended, right?
No, they can both play.
Yeah, so Shaka Torreira, Ramsey, Aubameyang, Lacazette.
Okay, one behind two.
Yes.
Yeah, righto. Okay, boys, that's it. We'll come back.
Hey, at least tell me how different that was than Tony's lineup.
So mine was basically there was two positions I'm not sure about. So Mustafi or Monreal, I'm not sure. So same system, and then I'm not sure if he'll go two behind one, as in Lacazette with Ramsey and another behind him, or Ramsey behind Aubameyang and Lacazette. So the two positions I said were a doubt. Are two that you done everything the same apart from them two you didn't have a doubt, you put a name on them.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I think it's best to play a lot of attacking intent just so that we can catch them on the break, and Aubameyang and Lacazette I think in that vein merit a start compared to Mickey or
I would have 100% gone Aubameyang. It's only because he played 90 yesterday. That's
that's true. Yeah,
I think
I didn't think about that.
Start in front of him, to be honest. I think Iwobi will get called up.
The thing with that is that if you have a true winger come in, like Iwobi, then you sort of have to put him on the left, and that means Ramsey goes out wide, and in which case you would think that a Mkhitaryan or even an Ozil is more suited to that role. So I think he would like. Right. So I think Ramsey is someone you want to use in this game. The fact that I've chosen Aubameyang and Lacazette is more to do with Ramsey's selection than with their individual selections, if I'm honest. So, it's open-ended, but I think we will benefit from having them three out there.
Just quickly before we wind up here, do you prefer, and you too, Tony, do you prefer Aubameyang off the bench in this game coming on, in the 50th or 60th minute, or Iwobi?
It will be for me.
Iwobi for you,
for two reasons. One, I don't think Iwobi is good enough. I know he had a decent game yesterday, but how many times have we sat here and said he had a good game yesterday, but we don't know what it's going to be like next week or for the next game. that consistency factor is something he severely lacks. Secondly, we just spoke so highly about Aubameyang's prowess to get into good scoring positions. Even yesterday, he struggled to finish, but the amount of times he made those clever movements to get into, just be an inch shy of the ball. Those things you cannot replicate on the training ground, and it's not something you can teach. And since I think we're going to be playing on the counter, I think it's going to be very beneficial for someone like Aubameyang to be able to capitalize. We get a goal, we can get him out. We can protect him for the Premier League. But if he comes on in the 60th, there might be a bit more pressure, and it's probably not the best scenario to bring him in on.
And you, Tony?
For me, and I said last week, he probably would have been my first name on the team sheet. The only reason I've got a doubt is because he played 90 yesterday. Especially in a game where it wouldn't have been necessary for him to play 90. They could have changed it up, and it may have even strengthened us bringing Lacazette on at a time when we couldn't hold the ball. But because he played 90 yesterday is the reason I'm not got him in my lineup. So I'd prefer him starting than him coming off the bench. But as I said, it's just going to come down to that fitness and that how much he's got in the tank, really.
Okay, well, let's get ready, because if we go through this, we'll be fucking happy days. Okay, boys, that'll do us. We'll be back after the Napoli game, and we'll also preview. Who we got? Fucking
Palace at home.
Palace. So we'll be back after Napoli, and we'll preview Palace. So thanks, boys. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Schwinn.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to our listeners, and thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening, and thank you for interacting with us on Twitter at @clockend_talk. Thank you for reading the blogs. You are fucking legends. And also, before I go, we have a dedicated listener WhatsApp group, and just flick us a DM on Twitter or something, and we'll send you through the details. The only question we do ask for that is, where is Schwinn today? It's like, where's Schwinn? Okay, thank you, everybody, and we'll good night.